Happy March, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Twenties Toolbox. I'm so excited to say that this is the first episode of the show that will have video, which is very exciting. You'll soon see why it's vital for our conversation tonight. Tonight's episode is all about entrepreneurship, what it really takes to build something from the ground up, turn an idea into a business, and keep going when things don't go according to plan. Starting a business can be exciting, creative, and incredibly rewarding, but it also comes with challenges, uncertainty, and moments where resilience becomes the most important skill you have. In this episode, I hope my guests and I can dive into the realities of entrepreneurship, how people take an idea and turn it into something real, the mindset needed to build and grow a business, and why resilience is often the difference between giving up and pushing forward. Well, my guest tonight is no stranger to being interviewed. Kim Meckwood is the inventor and founder of Click and Carry, which is a smart ergonomic handle that helps people carry multiple bags more comfortably and efficiently. Before launching her own business, Kim built a successful career in medical device and pharmaceutical sales, working with companies like Medtronic, Wyeth Ahers, and Acadia Pharmaceuticals. Two breast cancer diagnoses in 2012 and again in 2021 caused her to reevaluate everything. Those experiences gave her the courage to leave her corporate life behind and go all in on her patented invention. Her perseverance paid off. Click and Carry has since landed deals with massive retailers like Albertsons, Lowe's, Meijer, and Tractor Supply Company. Click and Carry has also been featured on Shark Tank on season 12, episode 8, Good Morning America, The Today Show, Today with Hoda and Jenna, Live with Kelly and Mark, CNBC, Food Fortunes, The Bethany Frankel Show, and over a dozen times on QVC. Well, Kim, I'm so excited that I am joining the long line of people who get to interview you, and I'm so excited to hear your story tonight.
Thank you, Grace. I'm so honored that you chose me and that I'm here on your inaugural video broadcast. So thank you.
Yes, of course. Getting right into why we're doing a video portion tonight. To kick us off, would you be able to talk about what first inspired you to become an entrepreneur? And would you be able to tell and show our listeners a little bit about your product?
Sure. I'll start by showing you the product. It's Click and Carry. And as I mentioned, it's to manage and carry multiple bags at once easily. And how it's done is you simply twist the Click and Carry open and you load handle bags onto each side. And it's any bag with a handle, plastic, paper, canvas. The key is to evenly distribute the weight. So let's say you have 30 pounds of groceries. Do your best to put about 15 pounds on each side. Once you get them in place, you're going to lock them in and then you can either carry it in your hand because there's a comfy gel grip on the bottom, but better, you can wear them over your shoulder and your hands free. And the real benefit of wearing it over the shoulder is the fact that it feels like half the weight because you're using your back as a support system instead of your arm. And the key is if you have long hair, you have to do those swoosh before you put it on your shoulder so you don't get your hair stuck. But it makes life a lot easier. And I invented it for groceries, but it's also used as a ski boot tote for dry cleaning, for paint cans, construction pails. And then once you get it home, it's actually a stand for your phone or iPad. And the reason I invented it was out of necessity. I lived in Los Angeles with my boyfriend in a condo, and I had to go through multiple doors and up the stairs, sometimes the elevator. So getting to the front door was like competing in an obstacle course. So I knew there had to be a better way. And I came up with Click and Carry, and the original design was just the bottom portion, and it worked well. It was perfect. But the problem is when you set it down, the bags would pop out. So I knew that I needed a top. And so my next iteration was with a magnet. And that didn't work because I knew that people would lose one of two pieces, or God forbid, a kid could get hurt. So a couple of iterations later, and lucky number nine, I actually patterned Click and Carry after a spring-loaded barrette, and that was the winner. And that's when I had them mold made.
That's so cool. I love that. And thank you for your demo, showing how there's many different uses for it.
Sure.
To continue, what do you think are some common misconceptions that people have about starting a business? Were there any that you had when you first started out?
Oh gosh, I would say that their business is going to be an overnight sensation. It doesn't happen that way. Usually the overnight sensations are 10 or 12 or 15 years in the making. And it's certainly not for the lighthearted. They're quite a bit of obstacles along the way. So you have to have persistence, tenacity, and a real belief in your product or service. But it's doable. If I can do it, anyone can do it. And I'd say go for it. If you believe in your idea and you think it's a winner, you have to go for it. And don't believe the naysayers, because there are going to be a ton of people along the way who say, oh, no one needs that. We just pick up our groceries and we'll just bring them into the house, even though the circulation is cut off on their fingers. They'll think, oh, maybe that's not a good idea until they actually use it. And then they see the real benefit. And that's my biggest obstacle, is getting people to try it, because once they try click and carry, they can never go back and go on a shopping excursion without it.
Yeah, I love that so much. And I love your belief in yourself. I think that really ties into our theme of not only entrepreneurship, but also resilience, which I hope to get into a little bit later. Kind of going off the theme of business, what were some of the biggest challenges that you faced in your journey building Click and Carry? Are there any challenges that you're still facing, and how are you overcoming them?
There are so many challenges. I can't even think of where to begin. But the first was actually finding the time to do this. And I had a full time job, so this was always a nights and weekends type thing. But the truth of the matter is, when you love something, when you're passionate about it, it doesn't feel like a chore. But if I had all the money in the world, it would have been much easier to dedicate all my time instead of having to work a 40-hour a week work week. Lately, the biggest challenge has been the tariffs. I actually manufacture overseas, and I'm trying to bring manufacturing to the United States. In fact, I have a factory in Rhode Island that I'll be working with, but the difficulty is getting my factory to send me my mold. They're giving me a really hard time, and they're master mold makers. So if I were to have it made at a different factory, it's not going to be the same quality, and to produce the same consistent product that is very important to me, because having a consistent, strong, sturdy product allows me to sleep well at night, knowing that my customers are going to get a good quality product.
Yes, absolutely. The customer is always the goal at the end of the day, right?
Absolutely. In fact, that's the reason that my my click and carry is in the position it's in right now. When I was on QVC, the feedback I would get that was that people loved click and carry, but sometimes it was difficult to open. So then we re-engineered it, and it was a little more easy to open. In fact, almost too easy. So it no longer made the click noise or locked into place, which would also create a problem. So I worked with 6 engineers from my factory, a master mold maker in Los Angeles, and we reconfigured it. So now the click and carry is very consistent, and it's a perfect twist. It's a perfect stop. It's a perfect start. It just allows me to sleep well at night. And the funny thing is, I know that it's done very well, because when I went into Tractor Supply Company, I was going to start in 150 to 300 stores, and instead they launched me in 2,200 stores. So I didn't have enough of inventory in the color they wanted. I know, it was crazy. So they wanted all black click and carries, and I didn't have enough. So what I had to do was take 2-pack click and carries. I had to take them off of their base card, or their hang card. And my mother, she reconfigured about 2,500 of them into singles like this. And I had to be the one to take them off of the packaging and then repackage them into new cases. It was it was many weeks of work, but we ended up manufacturing and delivering in time, but boy, was that an obstacle. And you learn that you need to plan in advance. So from there, I made sure that I had a ton of black click and carries in both single and double, and the same with all of the other colors. Although right now I'm in a situation right now where I'm running low on certain inventory, but I'm waiting for the tariffs to come off so that I can import more product. So I've been repackaging older inventory and being as creative as I can to make sure that all of my accounts are taken care of.
That's an incredible story, and I think that's exactly what I'm trying to go for here to show the listeners that, it's not, like you said, it's not instant success overnight. It takes a really long time to build something like you have. Um,
Absolutely.
what skills do you think are most important for someone trying to build a successful business, specifically for young adults who want to do what you're doing?
I would say number one, you need to be persistent because no is just no for now. You're going to hit a million no's. You just have to power through it. You have to just go for that yes. Continue to be persistent. You have to be dedicated. You have to have passion. I love what I do. Click and Carry is my baby, so for me, it doesn't feel like work. It feels like a labor of love. So that's something that's very important. And be patient with yourself. Know your limits. If you're worried about money, work a job simultaneously and do this on the side and on weekends until you get to a point where you're enabled to actually dedicate your full-time abilities to this project.
That's all great advice. Thank you so much for sharing.
My
How
pleasure.
important is networking and building relationships when you're trying to grow a company? Because I imagine that the people you meet kind of stick with you for a very long time.
I couldn't agree more with that phrase. And I'll give you a perfect example. When I was first starting out, I was still working full time and I gathered a ton of money together. It was a lot of money for me at the time. It was about $8,000 to do the home and houseware show in Chicago. And I was in this little tiny section called Inventor's Corner. And in Inventor's Corner, you were able to pitch your idea against other companies who were in Inventor's Corner. We were all just starting out. And unbeknownst to me, some of the judges for the competition were people like QVC and gosh, major retailers in Europe who were interested in bringing Click and Carry into their stores, Meyer Grocery. So I met these people, and one person I met in particular worked at the United States Patent and Trademark Office. And then she ended up reappearing later in my life by asking me to speak to the librarians of the Patent and Trademark Resource Center. And I'll describe that to you later because that's something very important I want to tell your listeners about. Anyway, so she introduced me to the librarians of the Patent and Trademark Resource Center, all of the librarians at the Patent and Trademark Office. And then through that, I ended up being asked to do an event for women at the Patent and Trademark Office. It was a dream come true for me to be able to go in to be interviewed by the director of the Patent and Trademark Office, who was a woman. Um, and two other female inventors. It was one of the best days of my life, and it was a dream come true. And it was important to me because only 13% of inventors are women. And I find it very important to spread that word, to get the word out, to say, women can do this too. Let's bring that number back up to 50%. 13% is just not good enough.
Yes, I agree with you 100%. What most people might not know is I do this podcast completely because I love it, and like Click and Carry is your baby, 20s Toolbox is my baby. And but the goal I'm really working towards is I want to be working in sports, and female representation in sports is a really big passion project of mine. So I'm really grateful that you cited that only 13% of females are inventors. That is really low.
Yeah, it's too low. And Grace, keep that dream alive. I know you're going to make it. I know that you're going to dazzle them and you're going to be a sports announcer one day. And one other thing I forgot to mention is QVC uh, judged that competition and they asked me to be on their show, but they asked me in a very creative way through them. They ended up getting me on a show called the Bethany Frankel Show. And Bethany Frankel is the inventor of Skinny Girl margaritas. And she has a whole product line now of salad dressings and popcorn. And I went on her show and I thought I was going to get a stipend of $5,000 or $10,000 and to get some information from her as far as business advice. And instead, I ended up getting a contract with QVC with Lisa Robertson and David Venable. So you never know who you're going to meet. And that's why networking is so important. And it's important to be kind to everyone. And in my case, I love my product. So I talk about it to everyone. And that's an easy way to meet people and to network.
Exactly. Moving into kind of a different topic, talking about resilience. So entrepreneurship obviously comes with a lot of setbacks. You're building something from the ground up, something new that probably nobody has really heard of before, and you're trying to make something of it. So would you be able to share a moment where maybe things didn't go as you planned or things didn't go your way and how you handled that?
Oh gosh, yes. Well, as an example, the tariffs have been a real wrench in my side. It's been very difficult for me, and I took a bunch of steps to prepare for that. So number one, I moved back to Pennsylvania and I rent out my place in Los Angeles because it's a lot less expensive to live here. Plus, I wanted to be by family, so there were selfish reasons as well. But it's a lot easier to run a business here. Plus, I now house my click and carries locally at a warehouse, and the warehouse is wonderful and they act as my 3PL, which is a distribution center. It's been flawless and phenomenal and a really big help for me. In preparation for the tariffs, I knew they were coming. So I brought in a full container, a 40-foot container last year. And then after the results of the election, when I realized that tariffs are going to be implemented, I gathered all the money I could and sold stocks and did some really risky things to gather enough money together to place another order before the tariffs were implemented. So there are a lot of things you have to do. You have to jump through hoops. You never know what the future holds. And it's worth it. And especially if I get to my end goal of a ton of success, fantastic. That may not be the answer. I hope that I get there. That may not be the case. But the good news is I could always fall back on going back to work if it doesn't. But I will still keep my dream alive on the side if that is the case.
Absolutely. Absolutely. How do you stay motivated during difficult or uncertain times, and what does resilience mean to you in the context of building your business?
So, resilience to me, well, we talked about it before that I had breast cancer twice. And when you're faced with an issue like that, you realize how fragile life is and you just go for it. I have nothing to lose. And anything compared to dealing with cancer is a breeze. So I just move forward. That's all you can do. And remember that no is just no for now and just keep moving forward. There are going to be setbacks, two steps back, three steps forward. That's just the way life goes.
Exactly. I love your outlook on this, and I love that
Thank
little
you.
saying no just means no for now, because I
Yep,
feel like no is very hard to hear
it is.
in any context, but I feel like if you frame it that way, then it feels a little bit easier.
Absolutely. And it's true that we take things personally. For example, to hear the comments that it was difficult to open from older ladies who would have been a great target market for me at the time on QVC, to find that it was difficult for them. Well, chances are they may have had dexterity issues or arthritis. I needed to listen to that, even though I was sad that my product wasn't up to par. I took that information and turned it around and made it a positive. So that's important too.
Exactly. As we heard from your bio, you've changed directions many times throughout your life. Um, as I say that, we can hear the sirens in the background. So how do you balance persistence in your business and your product, but at the same time knowing when it may be time to pivot or change direction?
Gosh, that's a tough one because we hang on to our dreams maybe longer than we should because we're blinded by our babies, our products, our dreams. But I just think it's important to just keep going onward and upward. And a perfect example is I had some issues with some Chinese companies uh, infringing on my IP. And that could have taken me down, but instead I pivoted into getting into retail because I hold two utility patents in the United States. So those companies would not be able to bring their product into the United States market because I own the IP and the IPs last for 20 years. Plus, I have copyrights and trademarks. So that's a perfect example of a pivot that I made. And learning retail is difficult. It's not for the for the weak, But it's exciting, it's fun, and I hope to report back in a year or two and say I've been wildly successful and I'm expanding in over 10,000 doors. Right now I'm in about 3,000, and I hope to be in 10,000 or 20,000 one day.
Well, I look forward to hearing about all of your success, because I'm absolutely sure you will make it.
Thank you.
I have loved all that you have shared so far, and I'd love to tie it all in a nice bow, with these last three questions. If you could go back to the beginning of your entrepreneurial journey, when you had the click and carry idea, you were starting out, getting it off the ground, what advice would you give yourself looking back?
I would say buckle up. It's going to be a journey. It's not going to be an overnight thing. You have a lot ahead of you, but it'll be exciting and fun. I mean, being on Shark Tank, best day of my life. So there are a lot of pros and cons.
Absolutely. What's one piece of advice that you'd give to our young adult audience listening right now and thinking like, wow, I think Kim is really cool. I'd love to do what she's doing.
Okay, this is my favorite question of all, and I'll tell you why. Number one, there are so many resources available to young people to start their businesses. And I'll end it with how the two of us met. But first, I'd like to say that there are SBAs across the country, SBDCs, Small Business Administration. Um, there is patent and trademark resource centers. There are at least two patent and trademark resource centers in each state, and they're manned by these librarians who are so well educated in anything IP. You can go there and you can look and search and see if your idea is already on the market. You could be advised by these librarians how to file a patent, or how to file a provisional patent or a trademark or a copyright. They'll help to put you in touch with local lawyers or people who can draw your renderings, which you'll need for your IP for a utility patent. They can actually put you in touch with students who are studying law who may be less expensive. So there are so many amazing resources. Plus, there are local colleges. So in Los Angeles, I used to judge a competition at USC every year. It was called the Lloyd Greif Foundation, and he would give away about $150,000 to inventors who attended school at USC, and I would judge the competition. But these different colleges have programs, well, whether it be the MBA program or the MS program, where the students have a curriculum that year. Well, volunteer your product and maybe you'll get some free marketing information or some free stats on how to improve your business or accounting information. And the reason that you and I met is because the University of Scranton, your college, is actually implementing a new program, and they have an idea center, which is amazing. And it's basically an incubator for students. So let's say they have an idea. They can go in and they could use the 3D CAD printers or the engraving machine or any of the laser printers. There's a studio where students can go and they can do their own podcast. And this is a great way to uh, attract new students to the University of Scranton, but it's also great for the community. In fact, I've been talking to the director, and he and I are going to try to put together some programs where I'm going to do a program called Concept to Fruition, where people can learn how to start a business from concept of an idea to actually creating the physical product and bringing it out into the market. And then maybe even working with some STEM kids for summer camps where they can learn how to use a 3D printer or a laser printer. So there are a lot of opportunities locally and in every state. Just take advantage of those resources.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for sharing all of those resources. I hope our listeners will take advantage of those. One last question that I ask all my guests. What is the best advice you have ever received, and would you be able to share that? It can be about anything, doesn't have to be about the topic.
Gosh, that's a hard one, but I would say it's really important to love what you do. I know that this is something that is said often, but it's true. Sometimes I feel like giving up. And what I notice is that when I talk about my product, people will say, wow, your whole demeanor changed when you talked about click and carry, or you explained this about click and carry. Your face lights up. It's because I love it. It's my baby, and it's been a fun adventure. And I know that I've been put in a difficult situation in that I'm creating a brand new a brand new brand, number one, but a brand new category. And people don't realize that they need a click and carry yet. But I think that I'll look back in 20 years and say, oh, wow, I'm so glad that I spread the word, because now it's not only used for groceries or sports equipment, but it's used for paint cans, construction pails, but there are going to be new uses in the future. Maybe it's used for the military. So I think it's very important to believe in your product and to be passionate about it. And I love what I do. So that's what keeps me going.
Absolutely. Well, Kim, thank you so much for being on this episode. I had so much fun with you, and getting to publish a video component with this has been amazing as well. So thank you so much.
Thank you. I think you're great. And I know that you're going to accomplish your dream as well.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. That's all for tonight's episode, everyone. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you can see that building a business isn't easy, but I also hope that you can see from Kim's story that building something of your own can be incredibly rewarding. Every challenge, every setback, every lesson along the way, it all helps shape not just the business you're building, but the person you're becoming in the process. So thank you so much for listening, and don't be afraid to take that first step toward building something of your own. I'll see you next month. Now go after that idea.